Sawadee Cup from Denver. Palm Chu Brian Cup. It's great to be with you guys today. I've been really looking forward to this time to be able to connect with the church in Bangkok. It's been a long 3 years since my wife Christina and I have been able to be with you. And not a day has gone by that we've not thought about you in the Bangkok church. We miss you so much and we can't wait to see you soon. And we actually have plans of trying to visit Bangkok this summer when the travel bans are lifted. Can't wait to be eating some green curry, giving some sweaty hugs, and being together and enjoying the fellowship as we worship God together and really live out our faith together. The world has been a very different place. So much has changed in the last few months in our world. People are going a little nitnoy crazy. People are scared, fearful, and it's leading them to act unwisely and out of character. But this is times where the Christians really get to shine because we're following Jesus and we have characters that God's been building in us that are just for a time like this where we get to make a profound impact on our world. This week and next week, I want to do a biblical study on wisdom. And wisdom is this Christian characteristic that really separates us from the rest of the world and really is a way that God uses us to impact the world around us. Wisdom is a biblical theme that's found from Genesis to Revelation. At times, God used the Holy Spirit to impart wisdom on his people to accomplish certain tasks. Tasks of construction, tasks of writing the Bible, tasks for times of leadership, and for times of persecution. Divine wisdom is not available to all. It's given by God for certain times that he deems it necessary. Yet, the characteristic of wisdom that each Christian can possess is something that God wants us to have. He wants us to grow in it in increasing measure. He wants us to become wiser and wiser day in and day out, year after year. As Christians, we're called to be wise with our actions, our words, our advice, our emotions, our anger, our worship, our temptation, and time. You know that there's over 400 references to wisdom found in the Bible? And I've spent time studying out these passages. And I want to cover 4 different key aspects that we see of wisdom. And if we can grow in these aspects, we will become wiser day in and day out as Christians. Today, we're going to cover 2 aspects. There's going to be a lot of scriptures that we're going to look at. So the best way is to write down these scriptures. I'm going to have them in time on these slides here. And you can study them out more this week for your quiet time. So we'll cover 2 today, and we'll cover 2 next week. The first aspect of growing in our wisdom is this: fear the Lord. Wisdom begins and ends with the fear of the Lord. Having a healthy fear, respect, love, and reverence for the Lord is the beginning of wisdom and leads us to making wise, selfless, and faithful decisions. Check out these verses with me. Psalm 111, verse 10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. All who follow his precepts have good understanding. To him belongs eternal praise. Proverbs 1, verse 7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Proverbs 15, verse 33. Wisdom's instruction is to fear the Lord, and humility comes before honor. Proverbs 3, verse 7. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. Proverbs 14, verse 16. The wise fear the Lord and shun evil, but a fool is hot-headed and yet feels secure. It is stupid and foolish to not have a healthy fear of the Lord. Having a fear of the Lord is healthy and needed to grow in our wisdom. It's the beginning and end of wisdom. Without it, you cannot truly be wise. The Lord knows everything and everyone. He knows every thought you've ever had. He knows every careless word you've ever said. He knows every word that you muttered underneath your breath. He created the heavens and the earth. He will judge all, and the one whom every human will give account to on that last day. He has the power to give and to take away. He has the power to build up and to destroy. He has the power to bless and to oppose. He has the power to give grace and to pronounce just judgment. He is the one we must tremble before, respect, honor, obey, and love. I want to be on God's side. I want to be on his team. I want to be in his grace and mercy. I have fear of God's consequences. I fear God's silence. I fear being distant from God. I fear disappointing God. I fear God's wrath. It is healthy and reasonable. This healthy and reasonable fear of God has kept me from making a lot of stupid mistakes. It's kept me from selfish ambition, hot-tempered words, nearsighted faith, bitterness, impurity, unforgiveness, rage, gossip, drunkenness, and deceit. Why, you ask? How could the fear of the Lord prevent me from those things? Well, because better men than me have dropped dead in the Bible because of adultery, because of deceit, because of stealing, because of disobeying, because of idolatry. And I do not want to be one of them. Fear of the Lord has made me wise. It's taught me not to want to touch sin with a 10-foot pole. I want to avoid foolish mistakes. Kingdoms have been torn out of the hands of the adulterous, the selfish, and the arrogant. And I do not want that for my life. Fearing and respecting the Lord has made me wise and led to deep, uncompromising convictions, biblical convictions that have guided my life. Convictions about purity, convictions about finances, humility, service, seeking first his kingdom, and about loving people in my life. I love that when we get to study the Bible with someone and we're trying to help them fall in love with God, and they start to connect the dots. They start to see how sin is affecting their life and how it separates them from the relationship with God. And they get this conviction that they want to do whatever it's going to take to get rid of that sin, to shun evil, and to fear the Lord. I love that moment when that creeps in. I remember studying the Bible with this guy when I was a young leader. One of my best friends, Jeffrey, we're leading this Bible study, and this guy gets super convicted about his impurity and wants to get rid of all the impurity in his life. He broke up things with his girlfriend. He went into his room and filled this big, clear plastic bag full of bad magazines and DVDs. And he throws all this bad stuff in this bag, and he hands it to Jeffrey and I and says, "Take this. I don't want this anymore. Get rid of it. I want it out of my life." Jeffrey and I left that Bible study pretty fired up. This guy wanted to change. And as we start going down the stairs of his apartment and we start going to the dumpster, we want to throw away this bag of very bad stuff. And this bag is see-through, so it's not good things that we're seeing. And we go to throw this bag in the trash dumpster, but the dumpster is full. And we didn't want to leave this stuff exposed where people could see it because we didn't want any kids to get it or for it to get in the wrong hands. And so we're like, what are we going to do with this bag of bad stuff? And I'm like, Jeffrey, I don't know. Just get in my car. I had this old car at this time. He throws the bag at his feet, and we're driving down the highway back towards my house. And Jeffrey looks at me uncomfortable. He's like, Brian, I can see what's inside this bag, and it's bad stuff. Like, we got to do something about this. My eyes are burning. And I'm like, okay, Jeffrey, all right. Just start destroying it. Just start ripping it up. And so he's getting magazines. We're ripping it. Paper's flying all over. It looks like confetti inside my car. He gets to the DVDs, and now these are harder to break. I remember we're busting these DVDs, and shards of plastic are flying everywhere. It's cutting our skin. It's giving us splinters in our hands and our arms, even cut our face. And There's literally plastic being embedded into the fabric of my car. We finally get to my house. We go to my dumpster that was not full. We throw all the trash in there, and Jeffrey and I just look at each other and we just look crazy. There's blood on us. We're like sweaty. We're like, oh, this was crazy. I remember us giving a big old high five and just praising God that we feared him and that the guy that we were standing by with wanted to fear God as well. You know, to the very day I sold that car, I still couldn't get out some of those plastic pieces of DVD that was embedded in it from that day. This may sound like a campus ministry story, but it's one of the coolest fear of the Lord and shunning evil moments of my life. I think the older we become as Christians, and the longer that we've been in his grace, the more tempted we are to fear God less, which can lead to unhealthy relationship and perspective of God. Let's not forget that true wisdom is to fear the Lord and to shun evil. You got to ask yourself a question today. Do you have a biblical level of fear of the Lord? Or have you lost sight of the respect and reverence God deserves? If you want to be wise, you must fear the Lord. Even Solomon, in his great knowledge, lost sight of fearing the Lord. And it led to his kingdom being divided. And after he died, his kingdom was ripped out of his son's hands and went downhill from there. Even the wisest person with head knowledge can be a fool if they do not fear the Lord. The second aspect that we're going to cover today is humility. A humble person is a truly wise person. See, people can be wise in their field. They can be experts, scholars, masters, and coaches and know so much about a subject. But knowledge does not equate wisdom, according to the Bible. When it comes to true wisdom, you won't find someone who's wise who's not first humble. Humility leads to true biblical wisdom. Let's look at some passages together about this as we talk about how humility grows the wisdom inside of us. Proverbs 11, verse 2. When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. Proverbs 21, verse 11. When a mocker is punished, the simple gain wisdom. By paying attention to the wise, they get knowledge. See, a humble person gains wisdom by paying attention and learning from others. It says here in James chapter 3, verse 13, who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by the good life, by deeds done in humility that comes from wisdom. See, wise people, humble people, you can see it in their lives. Wise people, they have displays of humility all throughout their life. It's displayed and it's unmistakable. Proverbs chapter 9, verses 8 through 9 say this. Do not rebuke mockers, or they will hate you. Rebuke the wise, and they will love you. Instruct the wise, and they will be wiser still. Teach the righteous, and they will add to their learning. See, wise, humble Christians welcome life-giving rebukes, instructions, and teachings. They seek out advice. They seek out correction because they want to grow. They want to continually grow and become wiser and wiser. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 15 says this. The way of the fool seems right to them, but the wise listen to advice. Proverbs 19, verse 20. Listen to advice and accept discipline, and at the end you will be counted among the wise. See, wise disciple ask for input. They seek advice. They listen to advice. They actually put the input that they receive into practice. This godly advice, it's what makes them wise. Humility is a tough pill to swallow. These scriptures force us to ask some tough, reflective questions about our level of humility. How humble are you? How much humility is displayed in your life, at work, at school, when you're with your friends, when you're around your family in your house, and in your discipling relationships? What would those who interact with you say about your level of humility? Would they say that you're a humble person who's hungry to learn and to grow, to accept correction, to seek input, or not? Do you trust in yourself, or out of humility reach out for help? Do you seek out and listen to advice, or are you too wise in your own eyes? Do you welcome correction and instruction, or do you avoid it and deflect it? You can't possess wisdom without first being humble. I have a friend that I met 13 years ago that reminds me of a great example of humility. Creston, here's a picture of Creston. Him and I met at a Nordic missions conference out in Finland 13 years ago. And Creston, he's an incredible musician. He's a composer, professor, and instructor of orchestras, of bands, of many instruments. There's really not an instrument this guy doesn't know how to play on the face of the earth. And I remember Creston leading this incredible worship at that conference. And it was so moving that you just lost yourself in worship. You didn't pay attention to what was around you or how'd you sound. You just got caught up in worshiping God. But can I tell you guys a secret? Not many people know this about me, but I'm really bad at singing. Like, I can't hear the different pitches and I can't match it. I'm always off key singing. I can't clap on beat. I'm always off. I can't follow. I don't have rhythm. And so I get embarrassed sometimes when I'm worshiping because I don't want people to see how bad I am. But I remember at this conference, I could not hold it back. I'm worshiping, I'm clapping, I'm praising. And right after worship, Creston comes straight towards me. And I'm like, oh no, like someone heard me clapping off beat. Someone heard my awful voice. How am I going to play this off? I'll just pretend that I'm an American and it's totally normal to be an American who can't sing or clap. And he comes up to me after that worship. And he pulls me aside and says, Brian, what did you think of the worship? Were you able to connect with God? Did it sound good? Was it too performance oriented or were you able to connect? And he's asking me these questions. This expert, a master in music, is asking a guy who can't even clap on beat. This may sound foolish to some, but this was very wise. See, Creston understood that I've visited many churches and had experienced a lot of different worship. Even though I'm not good at singing or performing, I have seen and experienced what good singing and performing is. And he wanted to get my input. He wanted to create an experience where all people could connect with God through worship. And he wanted my input. And he wanted to know what I honestly thought. He wanted to know this so he could grow, that he could become wiser in a field that he was already an expert in. His humility made him wise, and God blessed him so much. His humility inspires me. Wisdom's not about how much you know or how much you've accomplished on your own. Wisdom is about how humble can you be so that God lifts you up and exalts you and uses you for incredible impact. See, God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. He uses the humble. He makes the humble wise. I hope covering these two aspects of wisdom today have been both encouraging and challenging. As we talk about fear of the Lord, please review these passages and have a deep, fervent fire that fears the Lord. Let that be a big part of your life and your relationship with him, that you love and respect him in a deep, uncompromising way, This will lead to you growing in your wisdom. Make sure that you're also humble. You can't be a wise person without first being humble. God uses a man or woman that displays humility in their life for incredible, incredible impact. And I know that's the type of men and women that we want to be. I'm very excited to connect with you next week and to study out 2 more aspects of godly wisdom as characteristics as Christians we get to possess. Next week, we're going to study out how God's word makes us wise. And then we're also going to study about how an understanding of time and making the most out of our time that we have on this earth also makes us wise. It's been a pleasure being with you this morning. Sawadee Ka.